Welcome everyone to a new live stream. So, two people live, fantastic. As you have seen in the title and in my description, we will continue the extension from last week. So, I don't know if you have seen the one from last week. It's not absolutely required. We will just add some new features to this extension. So I will start by doing a quick look at what we did last week. So we created an extension for interests. So let's just switch to my screen and yeah, like this. So we created this modal which can be accessed from a user profile. So you can go on a profile, you can edit interests. Then you can choose some options. These options are in the database. You can choose one or multiple of them. And when you save, it's saved to the database, but it's also displayed back. So you can see them when you go back to the edit modal, but we also show them just like groups on a user profile. So basically, people could select a huge number of interests themselves. They don't need to be groups, and people can choose them themselves. But yeah, but even in 2 hours last time, it was not enough to have everything ready, because right now there is no admin interface. Here we had the extension, but we have not added any settings to that extension. So currently you cannot customize anything. We also don't have any permission. So yeah, right now the way we implemented it, anyone can edit anyone. So if I go even as guest, I think I can edit. Yeah, even as guest, I can edit anyone. So here I'm a guest and I can edit the admin, and yeah. So I think we will start with the permission because it's easier. We will implement actual permissions, and then we will take a look at how to make some kind of admin screen for that feature. So yeah, let's get started. I have already opened the project in PHP Storm. So this is what we did last time. There is not that much code. So on the PHP side, we have, of course, the extend PHP file. Here we register JavaScript, translations. We register one. We have one API root. This one is used to get the list of all interests, because when we open the modal, we barely don't see it. There is a loading spinner, or maybe it only happens the first time. There is a loading spinner. We cannot even see it. I can show in the network tab. When I open the modal, a request is made to the interests endpoint, which gets the list of all interests to list them. That way we don't need to load them in the forum every time. We only load them when you open the edit. And when you display a user, we only show which interest this user has. So we don't load all of the interests every time. Here I have only 4, so it's not a big problem, but you could have hundreds of interests, and this should still be very efficient. Next, we have a new relationship added to the user model. And finally, we have 2 service providers. If we take a look at the PHP source code, we have the source code for the controller. This one is very simple. It just returns all of the interests without any permission check, by the way. Here we have providers. So save user, this one is listening to an event from Flarum and handles the saving. Again, there is no actor check. So this is what the to-do is about. Right now, you can send a saving payload to any user, and it will just check if you have something in the payload, and it will save it. Technically, Flarum has a bit of protection if you cannot edit a user if you cannot see it. So if my forum was private, guests will not be able to edit other users. But that's not enough. We need an actual permission check here. Yeah. Next, we have another provider. This one was used to include the group, the interests. Like just like groups are included when you get a user, we include interests when you load a user, and we did that by looking whether groups were included, and anytime groups is included, we included interests. And the other part here, the relationship, was to add the serializer to the relationship, so that Flarum knows that when there is something named interest loaded on the user, we need to use the interest serializer. And then the other thing is the interest serializer. This one is very simple. It just returns the minimum information we need to be public. And finally, we have the eloquent model. Again, very simple. We just customize the name of the table. We had some migrations to create the two tables. So there is the interest table and there is the pivot table. We have some translations. Again, not much. And yeah, on the JavaScript side, we have JavaScript forum, so we have the index file, which is the start of everything. Here we add the badge to the users, so if they have interests, we add badges. Here we add the relationship to the interest. Here we add the interest model, and here we add the edit button. Again, we add it here. Right now we add it to everyone, so we will need a permission check here as well. This is the interest model. This is the modal that's open when you want to edit. It's inspired by the edit user modal. It's not exactly the same because there is something loaded asynchronously. So we get the list of interests, then we display the modal. And we have a component just for the badge because we adapted the code from groups. And yeah, and on the admin side, we have nothing yet. So this is where we will do some stuff. Okay, so let's get started with permissions. So we can start from the back end or the front end. We will start with the front end now. So we will need to extend some stuff. So I will again do some copy pasting because I never know myself. We can actually take a look at the documentation. I'm not sure now if we had example code. Yes, we have the example code here. So if you want to add some permissions, I think, yes, there are some explanations. Is there a different page for, yeah, there is a different page for authorization. So yeah, we have, so first we will go to permissions, groups and permissions. And here we have the code to add a new permission setting to the admin panel. So I will just copy that. I need to import the stuff. I will also import app from Flarum app. It's not necessary, but that way PHP Storm stops underlining everything. So here we extend the permission grid. And then here we have a few options. I don't know if... No, the options are not listed. The options are not listed. So we have moderate items, but we have other categories. So to find them, we need to go to the source code of permission grid. And in the source code, we can see the name of the methods. So we have the view items, start items, reply items, and moderate items. And each one of these, they match with a section. Here we have read, create, participate, moderate. So I'm not sure where we will put it, definitely not in moderate. how to because we have a few options here. We need two permissions. We need one for who can edit their own interests, and we need one permission for who can edit anyone's interest. Technically, the edit own, it could be under participate, and the edit any could be under moderate. There is another option. We could create a new section. Here you can see there is one named WordPress, which comes from another extension I have installed. So basically you can add a new section. So I don't know if I want to do that, because if I do a new section, I can keep them together, the two things. Otherwise, I will almost need to split them. I think we will create a new section. So to create a new section, what we need to do is extend this method, permission items, which is which returns an item list of plain objects which describe a group. So let's try that. So let's extend permission items. Let's create a new so here we will not do just like when we create a new thing here. So we will have a new item list with our permissions. This one we will call sections, maybe. So we have a new item list. We need to import the item list from Flarum. In the item list, we will have edit own. What icon were we using for the extension? We will use the same. Next we need the translation. So here we will need to define a translation. So we will use our prefix, then admin.permissions, and this one we will call edit own. And for the internal name of the permission, we will call it interests.editOwn. Like this. I don't need to worry about the priority here, because I'm adding all my own, so the order I create them will be the order we see them. And the other one will be called edit any. And yeah, I just changed that. And now I need to add a new section to the list of sections with this content. So I will just copy what we have here. So let's just do the minimum. So the section will just be called the name of my extension. We can put an icon. So let's put the same icon. Title will be permissions.heading. No, I didn't copy the correct thing. I just need this. So, and here it's sections. So in sections, I add a new section named Clark Interests. Then I use a title. So here the title will be this.heading. And then we have a property named children, which has to be two array called on an item list. So the item list, we have it here. So instead of calling another method, we just use this. And that's all. Now let's take a look how it looks in practice. We need to start the watch script. So let's go back to my folder. Let's go to, how is it called again? Interests. Here we go to JavaScript, and we need to launch the dev script. So the extension is already installed locally, so that I will not do again today, but just start the watch script for the JavaScript. And now if I refresh, something should have popped up. So we can see there is a new section. And we can see we can set some stuff, but we need the translations. So let's set the translations. Let's go to English, admin, permissions, heading. So heading will be interests. Then we will have edit own. edit own interests, then edit any, edit, how can we say that in English? Edit everyone's interests. So now we have some more English text. Actually, there is one more permission we should set. It's who can see the interests. Or maybe we don't. No, I guess let's not complicate that too much. Just like groups are visible to everyone, we will keep interests visible to everyone here. But of course, you can add the permission for that as well. But we will just do that for now. So we will let moderators edit anyone and members edit their own. But for now, let's keep it to admin so that we can test if it actually works. So now, how do we reflect? How do we know from the front end when we can edit or not? And we also need to check in the backend that permission. So first, actually, let's do the backend. Because even if the front end is broken, the backend is the most important. So the list controller, we will keep it public for everyone, because everyone can obtain the list of groups. Now we can do something. We could prevent access to that endpoint when we are logged out, because it just makes no sense for guests to be able to get the list. But at the same time, it's not a big problem. It's only a problem if your community is closed. But I guess we can do it that way, you can see. So from the request, I can get the attribute named actor. And here I can do something. And I think there is a method named assert registered. So how do we know? We need to go to the user model. So previously I searched in my source code. Another way is to go to the API. So api.docs.flarum.org. Here you can go PHP, beta 14. Next we can look for the user. Oh, it was here, Flarum user. So the actor, when you get the actor, you get an instance of this class. Oh no, I mean the namespace. I need to go to the class, which is in the same namespace. So you get an instance of user, and here you have a few methods. So let's go to methods, and here you have a set of assert. Where are those documented? So can we actually see them here? Yes, here we see assert. So you have a few assert. You have assert permission, assert registered, assert can, assert admin. So the one we want is assert registered. So that's the one I used. So this will check that the actor is someone registered and not a guest. And then we show them the list of all possible interests. In save users, that's where the important stuff is. So here we need to access the actor. So the actor is in the saving event. So event actor, and here we can use, here I have access to the autocomplete. So here we will use assert can. And we will use a policy. So right now what we will do is give a name of the name of an ability together with a model, and then we will create a policy that will handle that combination. So here we will have edit interests, and we will ask, can this actor edit the interests of what? Of the user model who is in the event. So when I do this, I trigger a check. I trigger an authorization check in Flarum, and now extensions are able to interact with this and to choose whether this ability is granted or not. So yeah, here we have actor is a user, and user is also a user, but that works fine. It's also possible. So how do I handle this? If I try it right now, just to show you, right now I check an ability, and I have not created any kind of code to handle that ability, so Flarum will actually try to guess. It will do a few guesses. It sees that the user is it sees that the target is a user, so there is a default policy for everything related to users. Flarum will check, is there something named user.editInterest in the permission grid, and that's what it will return. But there is nothing called like that, so right now it should just error. So let's try that. Let's so admin they can still edit, because admins by default they have access to everything. So whatever you check here, assert can, it will always success. It will always succeed for admins. But now if I go as guest, so first you will see I will not be able to load the list of interests. But technically I could still save them. Now I will go as a user. So this user has no special role. Here I have existing interests and I can see them. If I try to edit, you do not have permission to do that, because the permission is not handled by anything. So now let's create a new folder. Let's create it policies. Let's create a new policy. So this is a class. It will be called user policy. So it's not interest policy, it's just user policy, because it's controlling something on the user, because we have this thing called edit interest on the user. So here we create a policy. So this is just a class that extends the abstract. See if I can write that correctly. Abstract policy from Flarum. Next, we need to say which model is used. So here we add this property and we use user from Flarum user. Like this, the class name. By the way, this will change in future Flarum versions. So if you are 1 or 2 betas ahead, this is probably not relevant anymore, because we are changing how the policies are registered. But basically this is still kind of the concept. So then we create a function which has the name of the ability we want to check. And this method will take, I'm never certain of the order. I think the first is the actor and the other one is the subject. So in this case, both of them are users. How do we check the order without actually testing? We can go to the documentation, and this should be under authorization. By the way, here it says that there are some upcoming changes, and then here we have some of the stuff I have explained. And then policies here, so we can see the find stuff. It's not relevant to what we have here. What we are interested in is something like this: start discussion. First parameter is actor, second is the target model. So we have the correct order of stuff, and here basically we can decide to return a boolean or nothing, null. If we return null, we let another policy decide. If we return a boolean, it means we take a decision based on who can do that. So if I return false, no one will be able to edit anyone, except admins, because admins, they have a special rule that's above this. If I return true, we basically get back to what I had before. Like anyone could edit anyone. So what we want to do here, we have 2 conditions to check. So actor, we need to access the permissions that we created. So we have 2 permissions. We have, if I go back to the list of permissions here, we have one that's called edit any. So basically, if you have that permission, we want to return true for everyone. So that's one option. So I will actually split it into a condition block. So if the user has that permission, we can return true immediately, because we know they will be able to edit anyone. But if they don't have that, then we only want them to be able to edit themselves. But not only they need to be themselves, they need to have that permission. So I need to switch screens correctly. So here we do another permission check. We check, does the actor has the permission edit own? But we need to combine that with a check for, is the actor the same person? So here we can use the two variables. So actor, we can access the ID. I don't know. So usually I use the ID. So we can check, is the user ID the same as the actor ID? So actor ID, user ID. And we check it together with the permission. So if the actor is the user and the actor is allowed to edit their own user, then we authorize. Otherwise, it will return false. And yeah, here we have the option. I could put that in second place. Putting it first is a bit more performant, actually, I think. But it's probably not noticeable, because here, if we just check the two IDs and they are not the same, then we will exit the test, and we will not even need to get the array of permissions. Like that. You can see, by the way, here is the admin check. There are a few places where being admin just returns true. But technically you can deny stuff to admins with policies, actually. The admin check is not above policies, it's inside of it, because has permission checks for admin. So if you check something with permissions, then admins will always have a permission. But if the check is only based on logic, like ID versus ID, then you could deny an admin from doing something. Okay, so now I have my policy. So what do I do with that class? I need to register it. So I will go to extend.php. Here again, it will change. So right now I need to use the dispatcher. So I need to import the dispatcher from Illuminate contracts events. I will call it events. Then I can do events subscribe, and I can subscribe my class. So policies, because actually the class is a subscriber class for events, but it will change in the future. There will be a proper extender. Okay, so now my policy is registered, so I can test if there is a difference in the way it works. So now if I edit my user, I'm still not allowed. But if I change the permission so that members can edit their own interests, okay, it still does not work. So what could be wrong? This is where it's a bit more complicated to debug. So here I will not get a lot of details. I just see 403 error, and it will just tell me permission denied. Maybe the backtrace has a bit of information, but not really. So, how do we test what went wrong? So, first I will take a look at my code. So save user. So here I have my assert can, edit interests, plural. I have the user. Next, if I go to my user policy, it's spelled the same. Okay, so now something I can do is just do some debug statements. So let's just dump something in if the policy is called. Okay, so the policy is called. So now we can dump some variables. So we can dump the edit any permission. So here we probably don't have it because we are not an admin. We are just a normal user, not a moderator. But the other check should work. So now let's take a look. is that check true? No, that check is not true. So we have a problem with user ID, and actually it's perfectly normal because I'm not on my own user. So let's go to my own user and let's try to edit here. So okay, now we still have an error, but now we have true. Okay, so actually it was working, I guess. I was just trying to edit someone I am not allowed. Okay, so now it works on my own user, and if I change it back so that only admins can edit themselves, now I'm again not allowed to do it. Perfect. So, so that's working for the backend. Now people can no longer edit the wrong person. Now we just want to tidy up the interface because yeah, when I go to the admin user profile, I don't want to see that when I'm not able to edit. So yeah, let's add this to the front end. So how do I want to do this? So basically, we have one entry point. We have that button. So basically, we just want to hide that button. If you go to a user and you are not allowed to edit that user, we want to hide it. We cannot just check for the user ID. We cannot just check if this is yourself in here, because if you are a moderator, then you need to be able to see it everywhere. So basically, if you have that ability on the current user, we want to show the button. So how do we do this? We can actually show the value of this check in the front end. So how do we do this? We actually already have a user attribute. We already have a user attributes service provider, so I will reuse this one to listen for serializing. So serializing is the event which we can use to add some information to an API model when it's written. So public function serializing event, and if event so is serializer. So which serializer are we interested in? We could use the basic user serializer or just the user serializer. I think it's enough. So if this is the user serializer, then in the event attributes we want to add a new property. That property will be called can edit interests. I'm choosing the name, I can put anything, and the value will be event actor, and here we will not use assert because we don't want an error. We just want the boolean value, so we can use can, and here we can check for the same thing. We can check can this ability on what? Again, we have it on the event. Event model will be a reference to the user that's currently being serialized. So whenever a user is serialized for the API, we add a new property that says whether that check is true, and basically it will run the policy code for every user that's returned and put the boolean value in here. And then I can take that name and I can actually use it here. So here I have access to the user, so I can check if user.attribute, and here I can directly read the attribute like this, user.attribute, name of the attribute, and if I cannot, I will inverse the condition, I just return early. Now if I go back to here, oh, the button disappeared, because when there is nothing in the button disappears. So now I can no longer see an edit button here, but can I see it on myself? Yes. And if I'm an admin, here I should be able to see it on everyone. So I see edit interests. Now if I go to the user, I see edit interest, I can test that it works. And yeah, the last thing we can test is guest. So guests, if they go to a profile, they don't see anything for anyone. Perfect. So now we have the access control. And that's all we needed. So what I will actually do, because this code is already under version control, so I will do one commit for this. So I don't remember, did I include the dist files or not? I think I have not included the dist files, so that's perfect. So I don't even need to compile it for production here. So I will make a commit just for this, that way if you want to take a look at the history, you can see it. So yeah, I'm just reviewing what we just did. So we have changed a few things in each file. Yeah, so I will make a commit add access control, and I will push that to I will push that later, but I have already made the commit, and now we can take a look at the admin panel. So right now I have been editing everything from phpMyAdmin, so that's not very good. If it was a real extension, I need to switch windows like this. So if it was a real extension, it will be a bit of a problem, because if the admin needs to go here to set up the list of interests, it's not great. So we will create an admin interface for this. We have a few options. In Flarum, we have access to modals. So we actually have kind of two ways to design not permissions, like settings. One example is tags. So tags, they have a list, and when you want to edit an entry, you open a modal. Yeah, so that's one way of doing it. Another way is to have the settings in a modal. So here we had a custom page. If I take, for example, terms, for example, you can see the settings are a modal, so each policy here is actually a kind of drop down. In Flarum, we cannot open a modal in a modal. That will close the first modal. So it's not an option to have a settings modal like this, and then have open a second modal from here. It's not an option. So we can either do this, or we can do this kind of strategy. Either one is nice. Usually when I do this kind of stuff, I just copy from another extension and just do it again. Here we will do it from scratch. I have not actually decided, but seeing we only have one person left watching live, I don't think we will call for a vote. So the benefit of the settings modal, the benefit of having a modal first is that, just like terms, you don't need an additional page. You have everything here. But it's a bit more complicated, because you need to design this kind of drop down or stuff like this. There is another option that's not visible here. Do I have the how is it called? Popular discussion. Here we have kind of another option, an example. So here we have a setting. It's not exactly the same, but basically here I have a table, and you can add some new entries. Everything is always visible. It's just a table. So I'm actually thinking the easiest is probably to make something where all the fields are always visible. So something in this kind. Yeah. So let's try, let's disable this one. We don't need that extension. So I think I will create a modal, and then I will put everything in that modal. That way better kept together. Okay, and again, let me know if you have any question. But yeah, I see there is only one person left. This is so sad. Okay, let's continue. So now, how do I do this? So let's create the model. Components, let's create a new components folder in the admin. Let's create a new class. Let's call it settings model. But that model actually does not have any settings. Like Flarum has a class that you can extend. It's a special model that gives you easier access to have buttons like this one. But in our case, we don't have any setting in that extension. We really just want to make a model where we can edit the list of interests. So we don't even need to extend that special model. We can just create a standard model. So export default class settings model extends model, and model comes from Flarum components model. Next in here we will have, I think it's called content, and we have another one called title, and we have another one named class name, if I remember correctly. So here we have a few options. So these are some methods that exist on the model, so we will extend them. And I think like this, I have my basic model. And next in my index file, here I will register my model. So I will do something I never know in my head, but can we find it easily here? Don't know if I can see a quick example here. Maybe not. So what I can just do is go to virtually any extension. So let's just go to terms, just to copy that one line that I never know. So that's the line app.extension settings. Okay, so that's the one. So to register the model as the settings model, we can just go to this class. Next, we need to add a key which is the same as the extension ID. So in my case, it's always vendor-name of extension. So that's the internal name of my extension, and here I can simply register that this is a function, and the function opens the model. So app.model.show, and it will show settings model. And that's it. I can import that one. No, I can keep it like this. So now if I go to my settings, the magic should have operated. So now there is the 3-dot button. It was not there previously. Flarum has added the settings, and it opens my model. And you can see everything is here. I have my hello world is there, my title is there, and even my class. My class is here. We have a few choices. So if I didn't put any class, this will be the size. Actually, I think it's a good size. I think it's the same size as medium. Yeah, it's the same class as medium. There are other choices. There is large, and there is small that I just used. So actually, we will maybe not put any class. We will just keep the default. We'll keep the default size. Okay, so now let's make the editor. So we need some kind of editor inside of here. So first we need to get the list of all. We need to get the list of all interests that exist. So to do that, we will use the onInit function. Oh, hi Christian. Oh, it's just you now? There is still only one person watching. I don't know if it's the same person all time or if it changes. So yeah, welcome to the stream. Um, yeah, so here we actually want to load the list of all interests, and we can just copy the code we had for the edit because we will use the same API endpoint. So let's just use this like this. Yeah, and we can use the exact same code. I can also import app. So yeah, here I'm doing, oh, we have 2 people now, yes. We are back to 2. Yeah, now I'm doing the settings part of the extension, and I will create some kind of grid where I can input my interests in the admin panel, and I will put everything inside of a single modal. So yeah, so this code I have just copied from what I already had. Same thing, I want to return a loading indicator. Here I will wrap it inside of modal body. I need to import that class. Okay, so now I have some code that will load the interests, and I should show them somehow. So how will I do that? So right now I will just create a table, I guess. Let's create a table. Tbody, then I can do this .interest.map interest mtr mtd and interest.name, just so that we see if it works. So now when I load this, okay, something is loading. Guess there is an error. Of course there is an error. Interest is null. How is that possible? This.interest. So interest is null. That's an interesting one. This one is a list, which should be an array when it returns. So here it makes a query, reply contains some interest. Oh, I know what it is. So here we have interest is null, but interest should have been parsed into the model. But the reason it's not parsed into the model is because the model is only registered on the front end right now. So here we have registered the interest. So actually we need to register it on both sides. So what we usually do for that, we create a common directory. We put what we want to use from both sides in here. So now I have common models interest. Here now PHP Storm has automatically updated my import. So now interest comes from here, and I can just copy the same code and use it here. So I will import the interest on the admin side, and I will register the model on the admin side as well. And now it should be able, Flarum should be able to know what the hell is returned from the API. And you can see, I can see my my list here of interests that were loaded from the API. Great, okay, so now let's create some kind of editing grid. So let's use the table. So where am I? So settings, okay, here. So now in my TR, I will create multiple TDs. In each TD, I will put an input. So input.form control. I think it's called like this. Then I can have it type text, value, my name, like this. And if I do this, like if I include like icon, how many things did we have? We have icon, name. What else exists in that table? Name, color, icon. Okay, that's all of that. So which order should... No, let's start with... Let's put them in the same order. Name, color, icon. And I will put them on a line because, yeah, since we have only 3 attributes, I can just put them on a line. So let's take a look at how it looks. So you can see now I have some fields. It's not looking super... we cannot see the limits between the fields. So what I will do now, I will do a bit of CSS just to fix that. So actually I will do a class name just to have a custom class. So here I will put a custom class. So let's call it interest setting. Let's put it singular. Interest setting model. Interest settings. Okay, let's put it like interest settings model. Now I need some style. So let's go here. Let's create a new folder called less. Let's create a new file called admin.less. And let's do some stuff. So I want my table, first I want my table to be 100% width, just for the, so that in case I don't have enough width, just, yeah, because by default the tables don't take the full width. So I will just put that, and then I will put some padding. So on every TD, I will put 5 pixels padding. So nothing will happen because the less file is not registered. I need to register it. So go to extend. I can use my existing front-end extender for the admin, and I can add CSS. And here I put the path. So resources less admin. And now my CSS is loading. If I go back here, we can see I now have some space. And right now it's all very nice. So what else will I need? So I will need some new buttons, like I will need a button to save and to delete. And I will need some way to add new, to add new entries. So here I have a few options. No, right now I can continue. So I can continue just doing the design like this, but then I will create a new component because you will see right now it's a bit problematic to actually save the modified values. Right now I'm just doing a read-only version. So let's add a new column. In that column I will show a button. Button, it's a component from Flarum, so I will import that from Flarum. That button will have a class name of just button for now, and the text will be, so maybe it's time to make some translations. So app.translator.trans. Here I will need my full extension name, so let's just copy the extension ID from here. Admin.settings. Let's call this one save. While I'm doing that, I will take care of the title. I will use a translation for the title. Actually, for space reasons, right now let's do it like this, but I will change this. So, and another one will be delete. Let's add these translations to the English. So here I can create a new section called settings, title. Let's call it manage interest. Next we will have save, which says save, and delete, which says delete. So now we are starting to get a bit crowded. So everything is smaller and smaller. What I want to do is actually just use icons for this. because it's not really necessary to have text. But I will keep the text, like instead of putting it in the content, I will just put it inside of the title for accessibility purpose, I would say. Like, it's important to have some text even if you have just an icon. And to put an icon, we can use the icon property on the button. So I know there is an icon called FA times. This one is the cross. The other one I'm not certain. So save. Maybe it's called diskette. No, there is one called save. So I could use that one, or I could also use a checkbox. But let's just use the save. FA save. Okay, let's keep that one. So let's take a look how it looks. I think I need to customize a few things. So right now we don't really see the button because they have the same color. We will customize the color, and something else you can see, the button has not the correct width. So let's just put some color. So let's use this one. Let's say it's a primary button, and this one it's a danger button. So now Flarum should have some colors for me. Okay. And now, oh, we have another problem again. Oh yeah, that's not the first time I have that problem, but yeah. To fix the problem with the width, there is another class you are supposed to put on a button if it has just an icon. So that other class, I think it's the one that's called just icon, button icon. If you cannot see it, I'm putting two dashes. The modifiers like this in Flarum, they use two dashes. So button dash dash primary, button dash dash icon. If I do that, okay, now I have a better size. But you see, the icon is not there because Flarum, for some reason, has in the CSS it hides the icon for primary buttons. So I never really understood why, but yeah, you see here we have that thing that says that the button is not visible, but what we will do is just override that with our CSS. So by default, what kind of display is it? So it's display inline block. Okay, so we need to use display inline block. So let's go to my CSS, display inline block for the icon inside of a primary button. Let's refresh this. Okay, so now it's looking like something. Okay, yep, and what we will do, we will do the same logic as what I just showed before with the popular extension. We have just a large button that says add new, and it will create a new line that's empty. So let's do that. Let's add a new line. So here inside of the T-body, right now we have a single loop. So let's try to cut only what we need. So I will remove the loop. I will put an array. I will put the loop inside of the first part of the array. And then I will create another line, which is just tr, td, and this one will be another button. This button will have no special class. It will have a translation called add, or maybe let's call it new. This one, we can put an icon. We can put the plus icon maybe. Let's put a plus icon. And the td, let's have the td span. So call span, and we will call span. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 columns width. So let's have it span across, and let's add another class which is called block. So this one, button dash dash block will tell Flarum that we want a block button, so it will take the full width. Now let's take a look how it looks. So so we have the icon, but we have what was in the title. We actually want it in the content this time. So let's put it here. The content is the second parameter. So the first is an attribute with class name and stuff like that, and the other one is like this. Is the second parameter. Okay, now let's take a look. Yeah, I need a translation. So let's go to translations. This one called new. Oh, let's just call it new interest. Like this. Yes. And now we need some interaction, because right now nothing is doing anything. Even the buttons here, nothing at all. So how do we handle that? Because we will need, when we start editing the fields, we need to store the values somewhere before, so that when you click the save, it can take the value and save. We could do some very dodgy stuff with jQuery, but it's not ideal, and here with Mithril it can revert the values back to what they were. So what we will do is create one component for each line, and we will reuse that component. So how do we do that? We create a new component, so it will be here. So it will be called interest. How I could call it, let's just edit interest. I could also call it interest table row. Edit interest. Let's keep the name row in the name of the component, because it will actually only be usable as a table row. So now I have my class, but I messed up because I created a PHP class. I don't want a PHP class, I want a JavaScript class. So it will just be called, again, edit interest row. Okay, like this. Now here I could extend Flarum component, or I can create a standalone Mithril component. I will go with the latter because I don't like having more than necessary. So this will be just a simple class which is compatible, which is a Mithril component actually. So in a class like this, we just need view. And what I will do, I will copy view will actually be this, will be a single tr. So let's return the tr like this. Now we need to, instead of reading the value from the store, we want to have a value that can be edited. So I will create an onInit function. Here I don't need to call the parent onInit because my class is not extending Flarum. But if I was extending a component from Flarum, I would have to call the parent onInit. So here I will create a new property. One will be called name, one will be called color, and one will be called icon. And I will have another property which will be called dirty. So this is a standard name. What this variable will do is actually I memorize that whenever something is modified, I mark that my entry is dirty, and this will enable the save button. So yeah, we can use it like this. Next, what I actually want to do is the name. I want it to be the current value of the interest. So to do that, I will actually read the interest from the vnode. So I will read the interest from vnode.attributes. And here, if I have an interest, I will read the interest name. Otherwise, empty string. And the reason I make this, how is it called again, ternary check, is because I will use the same component for new interests that are not yet in the database. So if an interest is passed, I will take its name, otherwise I will default to empty string. And now I can repeat with color and icon. Let's just do some copy pasting like this. Okay, and now here, instead of showing this, I can just have this dot name, this dot color, this dot icon. And actually the color input can be a color type field. Yes, now I want to be able to edit these values. So now I can add an onChange handler. When something changes, I set it again. So this dot name equals event.target.value. And I can set this dot dirty equals true. And I can do that for each one of them. But I change the name of the property like this. I will just put my little global m comment just so that PHP Storm stops underlining half of the stuff. I will also import app from Flarum app. That way PHP Storm also stops complaining, even though app is a global object. But yeah, yes, I need to import the button as well. The button is necessary here. Yes, and now I will just update so dirty. How do I do this? So the save button will be disabled if the content is not dirty. So as soon as it becomes dirty, the button will get enabled. And the delete button here, I actually only want to show it if there is an interest. So here I will check vnode.attribute.interest. So if there is an interest, then I show the button. Otherwise, I don't show it because it means it's a new one and does not exist yet. Okay. So now we need to use this component. So let's just have it. Oh no, I realized something. I will need to change. I will probably need to make some changes. Yeah, this might not work. This solution might not work. So if I wanted to use this, so then here I replace, instead of having my tr, I will just have my interest row. I can import it, and then here I pass the interest as an attribute. So now it should still look the same. Okay, except I have my color input, and my color input has no minimum width, so I will just fix this with CSS. So input type color, and this one I want to have min with 100 pixels. Let's just try to have this. Okay, that's a bit better. It does not even need to be that wide. Let's just have 60 pixels. Yes, nice. Okay, so I still have a problem. I don't really know how I will handle the new stuff. So here, so let's just try. If I edit, you see now the button becomes available. And yeah, so that's okay. I still don't have the handling of the saving, but yeah. My problem now is with the new interest. I think it will work. The problem, I don't. I need to change how it works. So here the idea was that I could click multiple times on edit interest and have a few lines in advance, but the problem is that because the state is saved in the component, if I have multiple components and one gets removed, then the state, not the correct state, will be kept. I will need some keys. So I will actually change how it works. I will not have the new button. I will just have one row that's just for creation. That's the easiest. So we just have one row that doesn't have an interest passed in, and I will only you will only be able to create one at a time. That way I don't have to deal with the problem of that state moving. So yeah, I will just make it like this. So now technically here you could create a new one, then you save it, and then it will create a new line, again empty. I think that's the easiest. And the other thing that I will probably need some kind of key. So that the content is cleared. No, I might be able to handle that. Okay, so let's continue. And let me know if you have any question with the stuff that I'm doing. Something else I can point out is that I will not handle the order. You see the order of the stuff here is the same order we inserted them in the database. I will not take care of that in that stream. If you check the front end, in the front end we sort them alphabetically. So actually here we will just show them in the order they were entered. Oh no, we show them alphabetically as well. Yeah, so here we just show them alphabetically actually. So yeah, you don't have control over the order, it's alphabetical. Because we can handle order, but it's just so much more complex and we just don't have the time to do that. So yeah, let's continue. So now we need some actual functionality. We need to create the API endpoint to save the changes, because right now we don't have them. So we need some new controllers. We need store interest controller. We need update interest controller, and we need delete interest controller. So this one will extend is it called abstract create controller? So I extend this controller from Flarum. Here I can set the serializer. I can set that the serializer is my interest serializer, which I already have. Then the handling here will be check that the user is an admin. So get attribute actor assert admin. So that's all we need for access control. Next, I will need a validator. So, or do I need a validator? I don't really know. I don't actually. It's probably better to have a validator, even if it's just for the length of the field. Yeah, let's just do the code without the validator first and add the validator later. So let's create a new interest. Then let's have the interest attribute. So we have the name. So here we need to get somehow the name. So do we have some null? Yes, some columns can be null. So So this one I will just default to empty string. I will put the attributes inside of an intermediary array. Here I will take request get parsed body and data.attributes. So everything coming from the request will be in an object named data.attributes. I put them in a variable. That variable I will be able to use with the validator later. And then I just take the values from here and put them in my model. So next I have color and icon. So I just do that here. And here I also default to null and null. Here you might notice that array get will already return null if something is not inside of it. But the reason I do it like this is because I use a ternary operator, it will test for truthy value. So basically if the user sends an empty string, this will convert the empty string to null as well. Doing this will be unnecessary to do the coalesce null, but doing it like this will actually cast empty strings to null, which is what I want, just to keep the database clean. Yes, and next I can just interest save and return the interest. Yeah. Next I can have my update controller. So this one extends abstract. So there is no update controller. I can just use the show controller because there is nothing special about that controller in the way. Because what is an abstract create controller? Basically, it's just the same as the show, but it sets the status code to 201. But here we don't, for update, we don't need anything special. We can just have the 200 OK status code. So here I will copy mostly the code. So it will be a lot of the same stuff, except we don't want to create a new interest. We want to find the interest. So interest equals interest query find or fail. And what is the ID? It will come from array get, and here we have request get query params, I think, and in there we will find an ID. Like this. Just for the sanity of PHP Storm, we will tell it that this is an interest, that way it's happy. And then I can just use same code as before, save and return. And I can also put the serializer. Serializer equals interest serializer. Like this. And finally, I can copy again part of my code for the delete. So here I can extend the abstract delete controller, implement the method, and in here I can just do the same as before, assert admin. I don't need any attribute. I find the interest and I delete the interest. Here I don't need a serializer because nothing is returned from the API. And that's it for the code. Next I need to register my roots. So let's add this here. So we have 3 new roots. So interest we will have the post interest. So this one will be the store root, so store interest controller. Next we will have the patch interest, and here we have the ID. I never know, is it like this? I think it's like this. I will see if there is a problem. So I say interest slash, here we will have some number. It will be captured as ID, and then that's the one I use later. So this one will be called update. And the last one will be delete, so it's the same route, it's the same path as update, except this one will handle the delete request. Let's call it delete and use the delete controller. Okay, now I can call this from my front end. So let's try delete first. So delete, let's add some code. So on click. So when I click delete, actually I want to put my interest in a variable, just like here. I hope you know what I'm doing here with the how is it called again? It's the spread operator. I'm reading vnode.attributes.interest and I put it in a variable named interest. But I can shorten the code by doing object destructuring like this. That way I don't need to say that the name of the object I'm reading is the same as the name of the variable. Yeah, so next here I can shorten my code. Yep, and here I can just have interest.delete, and that's actually all I need to do. There is a method on the model that will take care of calling the API. Only thing is it will use yeah, it will use that name. Yeah, it will use that name in the API. So what I will actually do, because yeah, Flarum will automatically try to guess the API endpoint. So right now it will guess that the API endpoint is Clark-interest. So I will actually name my model, I will just call it interests. So let me just change that. It's not in many places, it's just here and here. I will just call my model interests. I need to change it in the serializer. Just call it interest. That way Flarum will guess that the endpoint is just called interest. If you make a bigger extension and that you actually publish it, you might want to have a prefix everywhere, including in the API. But here it's a demo, so here my endpoint is really just called interest, so I will call everything just interest, and now it should guess that when I call delete, it should call that endpoint. Yes, and here we can do an additional thing. We can do an alert, so no, a confirm. So we will ask confirmation. Before deleting. And here we will pass the name of the interest that's being deleted. And if the user doesn't validate, we just skip. Like this. Okay, so now let's try to delete the transport. Okay, nothing is happening, there is an error. Extract text is not defined, yes, I need to import that method. So this method extract text is just to take the translation. Translation, it returns sometimes an array. With that method, everything is flattened to just a string. So confirm delete, or maybe we will put we'll actually make that translation available. So let's go here. Delete. How is it called? I never remember how we format translations. I think it's like delete name. And here I could put a little explanation because it will remove it from all users who used it. So let's make it like this. Let's try it. Delete transport. This will disconnect the interest from all users. So if I cancel, nothing happens, and if I validate, maybe something happened. Let's check the here. So you can see there is a request to API request 1. It's a post request, but if we take a look at the headers, we can see the method override is delete, and it's a 204, so it means it succeeded. But it's still here because I have not handled the front end. I have not told it how to refresh the front end. So I will just copy this for future reference when I eventually recreate it. Okay, so now if I close the modal and open again, you will see it's gone. Now I need to actually refresh the list when typing. So how to do this? So I need some way of telling the level up that something needs to be changed. So here I will actually do a then, and I will call vnode.attributes.onDelete. So this is a method that I will pass down, and this I will handle in my where is it? In my settings modal. So here I will actually pass a callback, and this method will be called when this is deleted. And what do I do when it's deleted? I will not reload. I could reload everything, but it's not really necessary. I just need to remove this one. So I will memorize the index, and on delete I will call this.interest.splice, and here I will splice at index and remove one, and I will redraw. So whenever something is deleted, it's bubbled up to this component. This component knows that this interest was inside of the list of interest here, and it removes it from the view, so that you actually get confirmation that it has been deleted. Now I just want to go, I don't want to delete all of them, so I will actually implement the creation, and then we will test that this works correctly. So now I will add a callback, an on-click handler for the save. And in here there is a bit of difference, because there are two possibilities. There can be an existing interest, or there can be a new interest. So what I will actually do here, so I will have const const save interest. This one will be interest, or it will be app.store.create resource. So the way I do it, like I want to use this method. I want to use the interest.save method, but the interest might not exist. So actually, if it exists, I just use interest, and if it does not exist, I create a new temporary interest in the store, and I call save on that interest. And because that interest does not exist yet, automatically it will call the create endpoint. And here in the save, I can just pass the attributes. So I have name, this.name, color, this.color, and icon, this.icon, like this. And in the then, what do? I don't do a lot. I actually just need to I can set dirty back to false. And that's all. Like this. So now let's check if it actually works. There is one more thing I will need. Oh yeah, but let's try to do things one step at a time. I hope it's not too quick. So now let's try to edit. So books, if I make it books2 and save, we can see a request was made with book2 in the payload, and in the reply we can see it was modified to book2. So it's already working. And now if I try to create a new one, so let's call it testing. Let's just try to create it like this. Okay, so I don't see anything. Okay, but there is literally nothing. So let's see here. Create resource is not a function, so I must have misspelled this. So let's go to the online documentation so you can see. So if I go back to the API documentation, let's go to JavaScript beta 14. Let's find the store. It's here, and on the store we have, it's called create record, not create resource. So create record. Let's try this again. Let's save. Okay, so we can see the button has gone back to grayed out. So something was saved. If I take a look at the query here, we can see there was a request post interest with 201 response. So the new interest was created, but for now it's not changing anything on the line here. But if I refresh, you can see now there is my new interest, it has its own line, and there is a new line here. So what do we want to do now? I want to do the same. I also want to call something here. So if so how do I? So if there is a vnode.on, let's create so I want to create a new handler here, but I will not use it every time. I will just have it for, I will just define it when a new thing is created. But here there is something to be careful about. I did this in the past. I cannot call this onCreate because there is a conflict with the Mitchell property of the same name, but I can call it onSave. And here I will have how can I call this one? So I will call this one response, but because I will pass it to the callback like this, because what I want to do is when here when something is saved, I actually want to add it to this.interest.push interest. So I want to add the interest to my list. Something else I want to do, I will move the redraw calls to here, just to be more consistent. So I want to do it like this. So I think doing it like this should work. So let's take a look. Let's create a new one. So you see it was created and it was added in the last line. There is just one problem. Everything is still here. So that will be solved by an additional condition. So here, so actually the way I will do it, I will just check for interest. So if there was no interest, it means it was just created, then we call this, we can assume it will exist. And what we also do is set everything back to empty. So let's set the name color and icon back to an empty string when something new, when the new one was created. So now let's take a look at that again. So now if I create tree, it sets it back to empty, just adds them. So when we create them, they get added at the end because it's more user-friendly, I will say. But when you refresh, then you get them in the alphabetical order, which is fine, I guess. So now I can test actually the delete. So I feel like something went wrong. 5. It's not deleting the correct one. Oh, I think it's a problem with keys. Yes, the problem is just with keys. So we need to add some keys. Because what happens here, just so you see, this is something with Mithril. Mithril try to reuse existing components. And when I delete the first component, if I delete 3, everything moves back up. Because there is one less interest in the list, so everything moves back up. But Mithril just sees it sees that we still use the same component with an interest, but it has no way of knowing that the interest is not the same as before. And because in my component I store the values in properties and I don't read them from the interest, basically the interest changes, but the values are still there from the previous one. So everything moves up internally, but the states, they don't move up. So now I'm actually not seeing the correct thing. Now when I delete, I'm actually I'm not in sync. So one way of fixing that without redrawing everything is to give Mithril some keys. So here I can put key, and I can use the interest ID as a key, and this one I can use just new as a key. But if I just do that, there will be a problem. Mithril will not be happy. This would have worked fine in Mithril 0.2, but they changed something. vNodes must either always have keys or never have keys. And you might wonder, but everything has a key inside of this array. So here there is an array, everything has a key. But the problem is that here we have actually another array. We have an array in an array, and Mithril doesn't see any key for that array. The array itself has no key. So the way to fix this, the easiest I have found, is just to use the spread operator and actually flatten everything into a single array. So now all of these are merged with this inside of a single array, which is here. And now Mithril will be happy. Like this. So now when I delete, everything moves up correctly, as it should. Yes, now let's what's left. So if I try a new one here, yes, it still works fine. I can delete that one as well. Good. There's just one last thing I think I wanted to add, is some kind of loading indicator, because you don't have any feedback. For a moment, let's imagine that everything is super slow. Now if I create a new one, you see there is a moment where nothing happens and there is no feedback. So I will just create a new property here. So we had dirty, but now we will also have loading. This.loading equals false. And loading, I will just set it so when you save, we set loading to true. Like this. When it's finished, we set loading to false. Let's put it here. Let's do it like this. Here we have a redraw, so it will handle this. Here we don't need a redraw because after an on-click, Mithril always redraws. There is just one more thing we need, but I will show you later, I think. Now we want to use this, And actually what we will do is use a property. There is a property named loading on the button, so I can just use that. Don't even need to use disabled. Can just pass it loading, and when Flarum sees loading, let's so I load the page without bandwidth restriction, but next I apply bandwidth restriction so that you can see the thing's a bit slower. So now if I create a new thing, you can see there is a spinning indicator. I think there is a problem. We see the icon and the spinning indicator together. That's surprising. I don't remember having that issue, but I might not have used it on buttons like this. I don't know if you noticed, when I click, the spinner is on top of the icon, but I want the spinner in place of the icon. So there is another thing I can do, is to create my own spinner. Instead of using that property, what I can just do is have, I can actually, so I need to disable the button when it's loading, just to make sure that people don't click 2 times. So we disable when it's loading, but now instead of setting the loading property, I can just change the icon. So let's use the FA spin, FA pulse icon and use it in both places. Let's refresh, let's not throttle the connection. Okay, let's try again. Now if I try to delete, okay, so nothing shows up. I must have spin. So it's called spinner. This is the one I want to use. Oh, I have not, so it's spinner. Spinner like this. FA spinner. Let's try again. So now if I delete, you can see the little animating icon which replaces the normal icon. I think it's better like this. So you see the two buttons have the loading animation together. I mean, we could split them. Yeah, let's split them. It's more pretty. So I could have loading save and loading delete. Next, I want to. So I still want to disable when either is true here. I want to disable the 2 buttons because it does not make sense to click the other button while the other one is doing something. But then this one will be just loading delete. And this one will be just loading save. And yeah, like this. Now I have. I need to disable the limitation every time. Let's just limit again. So now only the one I'm using is animated, but let's see. Oh, it's not. No, it's not working here. Saving. This. This one will also need to change loading. Okay, now I think I have updated everything. Let's try again. So if I create a new one, it spins. And now here, so if I modify, save, only this one spins, but this one gets grayed out as well. And same thing if it was available, but I click here, then it's grayed out until it's successfully deleted. So I think that's good like this. There There was something else I was thinking about. Yes, errors. Errors are the problem. Let's implement the validator first. That's the other thing I told. How many things did I tell that I will show you later in this stream? I think the validator is the last one. So let's make the validator, because that way I can show you an error, because error will be interesting. So let's create the interest validator extends abstract validator from Flarum. Then here we can have rules. You can just put them here, and we will have name, required, string, max. And what is the max? So that's the most important part. It's the size of the column. And the size of the column will be 250, I think. Let me just log in back to PHP my admin. It will be the default length for columns. So if I go back here, so name is 255 and everything is 255. So let's just put 255, even though it's probably not a good idea to go that long, but at least it's what we check. And the two other ones can be nullable, color, icon. Technically, I could have a validation on color, but I will not bother too much. Just put it like this. Now I can use my validator in my controller. So the way I can do it is to resolve the validator from the constructor. So I can add a new property called validator. I can have the interest validator resolved from the container here. Then I can save it on the variable, and then I can use it here. This validator assert valid, and I can just pass my attributes like this. Now I just need to do the same in update, like this and like this. Now if I try to save something, so it still works fine. Now if I try to save something that's too long, so can I type something that's too long? That's a lot of, I don't even know to know how long it is. I almost need to have a new editor. We don't see the bottom. So how long do we have? So I'm I'm still not 250. Now it's too long. So let's put this. Let's try to save. Okay, so we have an error. The name may not be greater than 255. But you see here the problem is that the animation never stops. There was an error, and because there was an error, the code in then is not called, and then it means we never remove the loading indicator. So we actually need just to add a catch, and in the catch we just want to, oh, but why do we have two reach rows here? Just want one. So here we just want to stop the loading and throw the error again. We don't actually want to handle the error, we just want to do something when an error happens. And same thing for delete, even though it's less likely to have an error here. If there is an error on delete, we also want to stop the spinning. So now let's try again. Let's refresh this. Let's stop limiting myself. I don't need the limit anymore to test this. So now if I put again my too long a name, now you see the spinner. It's not there long, but it disappears when the error comes again. All good. I think we have everything important working. Now Yeah, by the way, let's take a look how broken is the UI when I put something that's too long. I mean, it's so we can put 250, but if you want to do that on your own forum, you might want to customize this modal a bit, because yeah, here it does not really make sense, and you cannot even see where it goes. Okay, so just as a test, just as a final test, we will recreate the categories I deleted by mistake. So there is one that I copied here, so I will just, let's create it again. So we had the train, which was called transport, and I will put back the color here. Let's recreate that one. Let's delete this one. And there is another one I deleted by mistake. How do I find what it was? We can find it again by looking at the thumbnail of this video, actually. So let me just get the thumbnail. Yes. So I have it on the thumbnail here. So which one? It's the book. So let me just type this again. So let's create books. Let's recreate books. FAS book. And the color. What will the color be? It was 34813A. Like this. Okay, and now we are back to what we had previously, I think. Yes. Okay, so we are at the end, I think. I will commit this. So let's make a quick review of everything that was changed. So we have some new components here in the admin panel to edit this. Here we also have, yes, yeah, I think everything. So we have the special modal. This is not actually a settings modal. It does not extend Flarum settings modal, as I said previously. It's just a normal modal, because inside of it we only use it as a modal to put something else inside, which is made with custom components. So it works fine. Here we registered the modal and we register the model. The model was moved just because it's standard practice to put it there. Here I changed the name and the path in the forum side. I added some CSS. I added some translations. Oh, there is something missing. There is something missing, and it might be nice. You don't know what is what. I could put some title at the top of the table, or I could just put the name. I think I will just put the name of the variables of the attributes as placeholders. Yeah, because right now it's a bit confusing if you were to install this. Let's add that. Let's create a new. Let's create fields. Have name, color, icon, like this, and let's have them as placeholder. So placeholder app.translator.trans this.fields.name icon. No, that's the last one is icon. This one is color. Color, we might not actually be able to read it. Some browser might show it. Okay, I think it's a bit more user-friendly to have it like this. Yes. Perfect. Let's go back to the commit window. So here we have our translations. We have 3 new controllers, which are very simple. Just check that you're admin, validate the data, save with Eloquent, and return it with a serializer. The serializer, we change the name just so that Flarum can automatically guess the name instead of us having to implement one more function. This is a validator, and extend. In extend, we registered the CSS and we registered the new root, and that's it. How do we call this? Like in interest management panel. Yeah, let's call it like this. And push. There is one more thing I wanted to change. I noticed that I committed the log file by mistake. Usually you want to commit the log file, but here, because it's a development, I ignore the dist, and I can also ignore the log file. And that way GitHub will not try to send me some notifications to tell me that my app is not up to date. Yeah. So now if I do it like this, because now if I... No, never mind, I think I will just do it like this, it's okay. Remove log file because it's a demo. Like this, and now I push my 3 commits to GitHub, and we are done. You can already see the code on GitHub, fantastic. And we just passed 2 hours of live stream, 2 hours and 36 seconds, fantastic. Will this be the only live stream where I don't go over 2 hours? Because yeah, we are finished, so if you have... I see there is only 1 people again watching, so yeah. Last time for any question, otherwise, yeah, it will be the end. We will probably not take care of this extension again. Let me switch the screen. Let's go to full screen. Yes. So that, I think that will be the last video about that particular extension. I think we have done everything there is to do with that extension. I will not publish it as an actual extension. Feel free to fork and do your stuff with that. Yes, I think that's it for that. Yeah, it was a nice extension. First, I was feeling like it might be doable in the first 2 hours, but yeah, I had to use 2 streams to do it. So yeah, more like 4 hours. Yeah, sometimes when people ask me to make an extension, it's not realistic to compare with the live stream, because in the live stream it takes a lot more time. I think everything I did in the 2 live stream I could have done in just 2 hours if I was not talking to the camera. So of course you might it's not a good representation of how long it will take, because it will depend on the knowledge of the developer. For some people it might take longer, some people it might take less time, and in particular for me, I know that if I'm not talking, I will be able to do it even quicker. So yeah, I hope you liked this series with the interest extension. Let me know if you have suggestions for other extensions. Something similar like that, it's a good idea. A simple feature where we need to make an admin panel and some permissions and stuff like that. It's a very nice. It's very nice for the live streams. Yes. Okay, so thanks for watching, and see you next week, I think. Bye.